Good afternoon, and welcome to the Insight Treatment Hour. This is Dr. Trevor Small, the Director of Clinical Development in Insight Treatment, and I want to welcome all of you to our program today, and thank you so much for listening. And I am so honored to have a couple of special guests today. I've got Ellen and Stephanie, who are both with the Valencia Relationship Institute, and we are going to have an opportunity to talk about lots of different topics around teens, teen health, mental health in general, and what's going on and how we can help our kids today. And so what I thought we could start a little bit with, if this is all right, Ellen, would it be all right if we started just maybe talking a little bit about how you got in the field, like why did you become a therapist?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Secondly, I was just thinking about that as I have been in the field for over 30 years, and I was thinking, gosh, what brought me into this field of therapy and working with others and working in our community and working in private practice? And I think it goes back to when I was a Girl Scout, in elementary school and junior high school, and doing so many fundraising events and community service, that I just realized I really did have a lot of empathy, and I really did want to help make people feel better. And so it just really blossomed for me, and I ended up going through that in high school, taking some classes in college, and then it took me to graduate school, and I got my master's in social work. And here I am, loving it still.
And it's been 30 years.
It's probably been over 30 years, but let's just say 30, yes. I'm seasoned.
Fair enough. That is fantastic. I am just thinking to myself as I think about when I started in the field. I actually started in high school. I started as a peer counselor, and I realized how exciting it was to talk with other teens and to sort of get validation of the stuff I was going through, and to talk with them a little bit and problem solve. And the experience, I think, of having lots of different rewarding opportunities as we're adolescents and teens and helping other teens, it really does feel really good. It really does help us form what we want to do sometimes for the rest of our lives, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And then there's experiences that you have throughout your lifetime that, brings me into my own therapy, that made me lead, parenting groups, going through my own, need for support. And it's just, it's a give and take, and I just feel like, and I love to normalize that for my clients, for my colleagues, about, that we all benefit from support and mental health assistance.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, maybe we could talk for just a minute about how you came into the field. Like what tell me about that.
Yeah, so I kind of had an interesting, I think, journey. I was in a very different field, kind of with marketing and advertising in the corporate world early in my career, and just found myself very unfulfilled doing that work. Even though I was good at it, I just was just not happy, and I just felt like there has to be something more, and I really felt this calling to just help people. I thought of my own childhood and how I always really connected with children as well as older adults, even as a child. And now even in my work today, I really enjoy working with the child, youth, teenage population as well as older adults now. And with both Ellen and I too, we're both social workers. So we have a little bit too of a different approach to mental health services.
Sure. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, social workers, we're trained to do, the clinical counseling, which, Ellen and I primarily at this point do that. But we're also really trained on, engaging communities, meeting, helping to support people meeting their basic needs, and, and advocating for a lot of, social justice and community-related issues. So, we treat the whole person. We just don't look at their psychological issues. We are looking at how the environment is influencing them and their ability to function and to connect with others and to be a part of their community and to thrive. So I find that really rewarding, that we kind of have that whole person and environment approach.
Absolutely. I often get the question from people about the difference in licensures because, of course, there's so many different licenses, even in the state of California. I think there's four of them, right? And there's psychologists. There's now a licensed professional counselor. There's marriage and family therapists, and there's social workers. And people will often ask me, they'll say, well, what's the difference between those four? And it's not really an easy question to ask because, of course, your degree is one thing, but your training and the way that you think about people can vary so much. My analyst, who was very important in my life, was a social worker. She of course had a doctorate in psychoanalysis, but when she was training, I guess back in 40, 50 years ago, that was the only real degree that one could obtain with such a focus on counseling and therapy. So it was a really interesting and wonderful opportunity for me to learn about that. But I also want to hear a little bit or a lot bit, however much you'd like to tell me, and maybe Ellen, you can tell me about the Valencia Relationship Institute.
Well, we are here. We're located in Valencia, right where our hometown station is here. And we have been a group practice since 2014. My business partner, April DeIjes, and myself were both in private practice for many years, and we would rent office space together. And then we decided to come together in 2014. We each brought on our own interns, and then we decided to create a group practice. So it's been 6.5 years, and we now are here. We opened our second location, and that's where Stephanie works when we're not in COVID and when we're in the office in Burbank, Toluca Lake area. We opened last September. So we have 2 locations, and we just love serving our community. We have 15 therapists. We have 3 pre-licensed associates, and Stephanie supervises them. She's our clinical supervisor, sorry. And so 15 therapists, and we work with so much of the community. Not only do we have, we work with children, teens, adults, couples, families. We work on helping people nurture their most precious relationships, even if it's with themselves or with others. But we have such a positive group culture here. We just promote so much self-care within our own group practice for our staff. And we have full-time administrative staff that we're open 7 days a week, so we can serve the needs of students and working adults. And we love, like I said to you, Trevor, we just love giving back to the community.
Absolutely. And I actually just received a text from a longtime listener, Stephen, who actually texted me and asked me a question a little bit about, and I think it's on a lot of people's minds, how, you mentioned COVID, how has COVID influenced the way that you're providing services right now?
Well, so go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Fortunately, we provide services virtually via telehealth platform, which was actually pretty, I think, underutilized prior to the pandemic. But obviously, with the pandemic, we made it Ellen like a 24-hour switch to using that platform. So majority of our clients are being seen virtually. The video calls for therapy, which has been found to be just as effective as in-person sessions.
Sure.
Yes, I think that we have had a much higher rate of clientele and sessions. Our therapists are all completely booked because of the telehealth. It's a HIPAA-compliant platform. It's completely confidential. And people can just do it from their own homes, and they don't have to worry about childcare, or we can do it, before school or after school. And we are finding that our clients are feeling so supported, and they're loving telehealth. And when we can all resume back in the office, many people will probably choose to stay on telehealth, and we will probably be running a hybrid practice.
It is kind of interesting how people have, where, I know that in my own practice, for example, there were lots of people who, when I first went to virtual, they said, "Oh no, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that," right? And then all of a sudden, they realized, that they really did prefer it. And so at the outpatient level of care, I think a lot of people will decide maybe to stay in telehealth.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think the experience of the service, I think as a clinician, too, it's kind of beneficial sometimes to see the clients in their own environment and to provide support in their actual environment, I think has been actually an added clinical benefit to doing telehealth.
And Stephanie, as you're saying that, that's what I was going to focus, especially the teens. We thought, we tried to train a lot of our staff on telehealth and doing play therapy, and with teens, which can be a very hard population to have them open up even in person, seeing them in their own environment and having them take us on the journey in their own house where they're social distance learning, things that they described to us during our in-person sessions, they're now able to show us, through their own home version, and we've been able to really connect with them a lot better. I think that we're getting a much more positive outcome from our teens than we were before.
Great. And again, of course at Insight, our focus, we're a higher level of care than outpatient. So for us, we've always done everything that we can to have it be as safe as possible for the teens to be there in person, only because at the intensive outpatient level of care, that level of support in person, face-to-face is so important. But for outpatient, yes, without a question, right? I think it's proved to be an invaluable resource for clinicians and for clients.
Yes.
I think also the stigma for a lot of people of going into a medical office building and going through the process of sitting in a waiting room, et cetera, can be very daunting.
Yes.
Yes. And so it's definitely, but with 15 therapists, you mentioned something about self-care. And I think that in all of our realms right now, I think that adults are struggling to find a healthy balance because of how busy that one can become in this environment. And so how do you stress self-care within your program?
Well, I think that, one of the things is we encourage people to take time off, even though we're open 7 days a week. Most therapists work part of or all of a weekend day. So April and I encourage them, even when we hire them, that even though you're working on a weekend, we encourage you once a month to, request a day off, take a whole weekend off, take vacation time during this time at the end of the year with all the holidays. We encourage people to take time off. Our administrative staff will make sure that their clients are rescheduled. They don't have to worry about that. We send out gifts during the year. We try, and even before COVID, we had get-togethers where we did a lot of, nurturing with one another and team building. And now we try to do it virtually. But
sure,
so important.
And you've been in the area, if I heard correctly, 7 years, 10 years. Is that how long VRI has been in Santa Clarita?
Valencia Relationship Institute, our group practice was formulated in 2014. I've been out here for over 30 years in private practice, and April has been out here with me probably for the last 17 years.
Wow!
In different locations. So I feel very connected to Santa Clarita Valley. I live here and work here, and and again, we were so excited to meet your staff. We were just about to go to your open house when you opened your facility in Valencia, and then COVID hit. April and I were ready to walk out the door, and we literally got a phone call that it was canceled. So because we've sent a couple of referrals.
Yeah, all that food had to be eaten, and who it fell upon that. But we'll talk about that later. But yes, it really, because so you've seen the valley really change. I mean, you've really seen the area grow and develop from, I think it was a relatively small community to a pretty active burgeoning city.
Yes, it definitely has, and as it's grown, so has the needs for our population, and especially with our teenage population, we've seen a lot more struggles out here in the Santa Clarita Valley, and so we are seeing more of that in our group practice here with the diagnoses that some of these children and teens are coming in with. So it's hit hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that you could have given me a better segue than you just did about our next segment here when we come back after this commercial break, which is to talk about not only the struggles that we're seeing from teens and how parents are trying to address them, but also some of the ways that we can help support our teens and parents right now during COVID and during this pandemic. And so, of course, we're on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, KHTS, and 12:20 a.m., the Insight Treatment Hour. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thanks so much for spending your afternoon with us.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
No words can describe the power of belonging to a group of close friends or being part of a family. Insight Treatment Center was founded more than 20 years ago to give teenagers a community of friends and family as they overcome issues like depression, anxiety, and trauma. The new Santa Clarita location is a COVID-secure environment where distance and good airflow are a priority. As a leader in providing intensive outpatient treatment to teenagers, Insight Treatment Center in Santa Clarita is here to help. Call 888-295-9995 or go online to insighttreatment.com.
This is Jill from the Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to our 4,655 families in the SCV community. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website at santaclaritagrocery.org or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
You just had an accident. Now what?
I'm Caesar from Body Shop 661. After you get into a car accident and call your insurance company, chances are they're going to send you to a cut-rate auto body just to save themselves some money.
So, what do I do?
Call me at Body Shop 661. Your car will get taken care of as if it were my own. No second-rate parts, and the job isn't finished until it's done right. Body Shop 661 handles all types of vehicles, foreign and domestic. Plus, I work with all insurance companies.
Locally owned and operated for over 20 years. On Ruther, just past Home Depot. Call Body Shop 661 at 251-2252.
When a person is diagnosed with a life-limiting illness, the patient and family may become overwhelmed with planning, emotions, questions, and fear. The Traditions Health Hour provides information and guidance to help them navigate through their end-of-life journey. Their goal is to help patients have the best quality of life possible while receiving the care they need in the place they want to be, home. Get your questions answered during the Traditions Health Hour, Wednesdays at noon, right here on KHTS, and live on Facebook at KHTS Radio.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
HometownStation.com is the best for information on COVID-19 and the Santa Clarita Valley.
It's who we are.
Hello and welcome back to your hometown station, 98.1 FM KHTS and 1220 AM. This is the Insight Treatment Hour, and this is Dr. Trevor Small, the Director of Clinical Development at Insight Treatment. And we have been talking with Ellen Bradley-Windell and Stephanie Wedgeby, both of the Valencia Relationship Institute, and we've been having a great conversation so far about how not only they came into the field, but how this wonderful program that they put together here at the Valencia Relationship Institute has come to be. And I thought we could spend some time, Ellen and Stephanie, if this is all right, talking a little bit about what we're seeing in teens and the struggles that they're having and how we're helping them.
Yeah, so with, obviously this pandemic and the length of the pandemic, working with teens, we've definitely seen, increases with, more mood disorder, isolation behaviors, family conflict, because a lot of our teens and youth, they just don't have the outlets that they previously had, or, if they had, a mental health problem or a mood disorder, symptoms have become much more intensified, some families might have had to income loss, a huge adjustment with the, online distance learning, not being able to, share in activities with friends, and be, socially connected. So we've definitely seen, an increase in those types of behaviors and symptoms. And with some of our teens also, maybe some also increase with drugs and alcohol issues or more at-risk self-harming behaviors.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I guess the idea would be of amplification of already existing issues, if I'm understanding right, along with some emergence of what we'd expect to see after a period of isolation, right? Sadness, anxiety, worry, a turn maybe to substances. Yeah? Is it right?
Yes.
Yes, and also, it's interesting. Go ahead, Stephanie.
No, just not having, especially teens, their social life and connecting with their peers is such a big part of their development. And, at this point, we all are supposed to be, staying home. And sometimes, home, there's stress. Even before COVID, a lot of teens were facing a lot of, distress in their home. And so with COVID, that just adds, a huge layer to potentially already complex issues.
Of course.
Also, some of the things that Stephanie said, it's so true. We're seeing that so much more here, both in the office and through telehealth. But, we talk about like a grieving process that the teens have gone through, even though it's been 9 months, but so many milestones have been missed and so many losses, anticipatory losses, just, kids that were supposed to go away to college, kids that were supposed to go to their proms and their winter formals and all the sports that were canceled and the high school kids that lived for their sports teams and not only playing on them but going to the games. This was all, and we talked about this. One day everything is normal, and the next day everybody's lives changed drastically, and the teens have been hit really hard, and just so much loss, even though, hopefully they're healthy physically, but so much loss emotionally, and with the milestones, with what they were expecting, and what they have to look forward to, because the anticipation of the unknown is very hard, and us as adults we can't say, oh well, we lived through this when we were a kid. None of us have been through COVID before, so we don't even have any experience to share with the teens about how we got through it.
Yes, exactly. We're all quite literally paddling in the same canoe, and we're all wondering when we're going to hit land. Mm-hmm. And something that I'm going to throw a little bit of a question to you is, as we're getting theoretically closer to land, as they tell us that we'll have some things that'll be helping us, right? The vaccine has come out, which is such wonderful news, and people have access to it over the next, I don't know, months, I guess, is the idea here. But how, and as we think about how to help our kids now, I'd also love for us to maybe think about how do we help kids and adults with the idea of reintegration once this is passed. What do you think?
I thought about that in terms of, strategies that parents can help now, but I also thought about the question that you just asked about learning to re-socialize again, because teenagers, myself as an adult, just like, how do I go back out, when I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing people in a restaurant or I'm seeing people in the movie theater or at a party, it takes I have to take a breath, like, oh my gosh, they're together in the same room, I forgot how to do all that, so I can imagine what it would be like for teens on how to reintegrate. And that's actually something, that's a work in progress, because we're trying so hard to, when you talk about getting closer to land, we're trying to help these kids, find the common ground, find the land that I personally haven't thought about. Now what? Now that we're back there, how do we get you reacclimated? I'm wondering if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, again, kind of a transition and an adjustment, and so kind of maybe preparing, families kind of to do one thing at a time, because I do anticipate with the schools, it's not going to be like a switch where everybody's going back to school all at once. I'm sure they're going to probably do a combination of hybrid learning where there's a period of time where kids are still doing the distance learning, and then a period of time where they're probably doing it in class in instruction, so kind of just taking, be patient with kind of, we all had to make a big adjustment to being in our home, so it's going to be I think somewhat of an adjustment and a curve with kind of reintegrating back into, daily normal life. And so, having talks with your teens, what do you think about that? I know I've worked with some teens that they're not really actually that excited to return back to school, that in some ways the distance learning has relieved a lot of pressure and burden with kind of facing the school stress and, social anxiety and peers and having to, get up at a certain time. So, families really need to start kind of having a discussion and, maybe kind of developing a plan about what that looks like to help support their child and that adjustment and transition phase.
Exactly, and the reason that I bring this up, and I'm starting to bring this up, I think, because within the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to be asking our teenagers and our families to be changing what we've been asking them to do, and to try something that might bring up a lot of feelings of anxiety. And right now, we're trying to help people deal with isolation. And so if we back up just a little bit, how is your team helping the kids with right now, the parents right now, with isolation and with struggling with how their world is today?
Well, first and foremost, when we're working with the parents, we're telling them that they need to set aside time to take care of themselves first, when possible, for their own self-care, just like we do with our staff, because then they'll have the energy and the strength for it to trickle down to their own teens. But we've gathered, we use some strategies such as like building in time for the whole family to take some time together, whether it's taking a walk together, whether it's watching a movie, whether it's using your dinner time as a transition from the hustle and bustle of whether it's distance learning at home or the parents are working at home, and having some downtime for some just family time and being in the moment. And the other thing is also allowing the teenagers, telling the parents, giving permission to allow more downtime for the kids. Even though a lot of them are isolating, playing video games in their room, they're separating themselves from their parents, that's really a normal developmental stage anyway, and it's normal for teens to crave more privacy from their families. So we're encouraging parents to give them space and quiet time, give them time to be creative, time to listen to music, or even to virtually hang out with their friends. It can really help ease any of the feelings of them being isolated from their friends or difficulties with the change of routine. As Stephanie mentioned earlier, there could be family stress anyway, and then with everybody at home, whether working from home or school at home, it's really everybody needs their own personal space, and for parents to give their teens the permission that it's okay to spend time by yourself and not to worry that it's, something deeper than that. We also have them looking for signs of depression and anxiety, as Stephanie mentioned. If they're seeing poor self-care, sleeping all the time, not finding any purpose to get up, helping them develop some strategies with their kids on having a routine, having structure, getting outside, getting some of that vitamin D, which we don't have today because it's raining, but that helps with mental health and emotional well-being.
Okay.
And I think go ahead.
No, please.
One of the things that just came that really struck me when just thinking about strategies for parents was just to validate. Give them room to share their feelings and just listen without judgment, listen without trying to fix it, without trying to reassure them that everything's going to be fine, because, they know, we don't know when everything will be fine, but just listening without the judgment. Some teens are going to worry about missing activities, even expected to help them with college applications. This is the time of year right now the kids are applying to the state colleges and to universities and wondering how that's going to affect them. That SATs aren't required for most of the universities right now when all of the kids were preparing for that. But just giving them room to share how they're feeling and acknowledging the real stress that they may be under. And then the parents can express confidence that their child will rebound, just like you were talking about, Trevor, like when we're allowed to reintegrate back into the community and to socialize again, that the parent just verbalizes that the confidence they know that their child will adjust when they have to.
Gotcha. I think that you bring up the being able to understand the range of what's expected. So, for example, I don't know about the two of you, but I think I could probably disclose this to the public, that I haven't worn shoes at work now for almost 7 months, and that's not because I don't like wearing shoes. It's because when I do telehealth, you can't see that I'm wearing shoes, and hopefully that doesn't concern anybody that's listening. I don't think it will. But for so many of us, right? For a lot of our kids, for example, they will. So one of my boys goes to a prep school, and he has to wear a shirt and tie to go to school. And when he's at home, remote, he will wear his pajama pants and a shirt and tie. And I'll say, well, that's kind of an unusual look, but right now that is okay because that's kind of what we're asked to do. We're asked to sort of show up, we're asked to be present, but we're also, I think, having to be aware that the normal ways we might gauge how somebody's grooming or getting dressed or not getting dressed are a little different right now. I wonder if we could talk. You have a mention here in your blog, which is a fantastic group of information for people that are listening that are interested about such a variety of topics. And I have to tell you that the first 5 entries that I see right here in front of me about the holidays and managing the holidays during the pandemic are incredible. I had a chance to read a few, and I found it to be so valuable. But I want to talk for a minute about mindfulness. It's a term that a lot of schools are using, a lot of employers are using. I don't know that people really understand what that term means. Could you speak, just either one of you, about the idea of mindfulness?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I know that comes a lot because I think most people think mindfulness is meditation practice. Now, you can do meditation as a form of mindfulness, but it's not the same thing. And so I think most people think like, oh my gosh, I cannot go around and sit for 20 to 30 minutes with my head in my thoughts. And I'm like, no, that's meditation. And even when you start meditation practice, it takes a while before you can kind of, sit there for 20 minutes. But all mindfulness is the present. It's here and now. So any activity that orients you to the current moment, that is mindfulness. Is it you pay attention to the 5 senses, your taste, your smell, sound, even music. Music can be a big mindfulness experience. Cooking, taking the time to really see what you're making, or eating. There's a big thing about mindful eating, to really pay attention to kind of the taste of the foods, eating slowly. But it's anything that really orients you to your present experience. When I'm working with clients, we just say, what's coming up for you right now? Tell me what's happening right now. That is mindfulness experience. It's very effective with treating anxiety, treating post-traumatic stress. With COVID, I know yesterday I just did an hour training on health anxiety, and they were finding that mindfulness really helps. And so many people right now are having health anxiety because of COVID. So they said that mindfulness was really effective to treat health anxiety symptoms. So it's anything. It's really anything that orients you to here and now. What are you feeling right now? What's happening in your body? What's happening with your senses? Even going on a 5-minute walk and really paying attention to what you see on your walk, the sounds on your walk. That's all different forms of mindfulness experience.
Fantastic. Yes, I think a lot of people, when they hear the word mindfulness, they think that they're going to have to, develop a meditation practice immediately and start doing 3 hours of meditation daily. And it really is just about being present, right? Just kind of being where your feet are in the moment, right?
Yes, here and now. Everything, and I think, oftentimes, many people are very preoccupied either about what hasn't happened yet or about the past. And so that's why mindfulness is such an amazing intervention, because it's completely rooted in what is happening in the present moment.
And how often do you and your team suggest that people, maybe as a family or with teens that are struggling right now, how often do you suggest that people practice mindfulness in a day? What's a good goal?
Once a day. I said, at least daily mindfulness practice, because I think some people, they're not even aware of what they're doing as mindfulness. So just educating them about what it is and doing one mindful activity a day. And sometimes, especially like Ellen had mentioned, we have parents working from home, also having to be teachers. Kids are doing the distance learning. And so there could be people in the house just doing so many things at once. So they even said just doing one thing at a time is a form of mindfulness. Just doing one thing at a time. So I really talk to my families with, about just, do one thing at a time. Do what's accessible, not even realistic. What can you do right now?
Fantastic.
And another thing in terms of mindfulness, Trevor, also is, as Stephanie was saying, we're actually allowing, telling the teens and adults, it's telling them, tell yourself it's okay to feel anxious right now. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel angry, feeling like you're gypped from this year, and accepting the feelings that you have and validating them, because we're all having these feelings, and it's important to accept them as they are rather than fighting them. And I know that one of the things that Stephanie does a lot with her clients as well, I do them as well too, is journaling, is mindful journaling. And, a lot of the teens are like, I don't want to do any more writing. I'm already doing enough for school. But when Stephanie was saying that we ask them to do one thing a day that's mindful, that they're very aware of in the present, if they're writing it down in a journal, and sometimes they'll send it to us, sometimes they'll just read it to us during our sessions. But when you're writing it down, your brain doesn't know if it's happening right now or if it's a memory. So your brain gets to feel it a second time.
Well, let's do this. Let's hold that thought just for a minute here. Of course, again on your hometown station, KHTS 98.1 and 12:20 a.m. And I have Ellen Bradley-Windell and Stephanie Wedgeby from the Valencia Relationship Institute. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how to deal with the holidays. So see you in just a few minutes.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
No words can describe the power of belonging to a group of close friends or being part of a family. Insight Treatment Center was founded more than 20 years ago to give teenagers a community of friends and family as they overcome issues like depression, anxiety, and trauma. The new Santa Clarita location is a COVID-secure environment where distance and good airflow are a priority. As a leader in providing intensive outpatient treatment to teenagers, Insight Treatment Center in Santa Clarita is here to help. Call 888-295-9995 or go online to insighttreatment.com.
KHTS strives to give the Santa Clarita Valley all the information they need. And when our computers aren't working the way they should, we call Resurgence, your true source for IT. Resurgence provides outstanding customer service while also providing the highest technical ability. They strive to do what's best to improve and protect your business. For more information on Resurgence, call 349-4114 or visit resurgenceit.com.
Step into a hot shower or slip on a warm t-shirt fresh from the dryer, and you can feel the comfort natural gas gives us every day. For over 100 years, Southern California Gas Company has provided safe, reliable natural gas service. It warms our homes, powers cleaner vehicles, and cooks our food at a fraction of the cost of other energy sources with less environmental impact, today and for decades to come. Natural gas, part of the clean energy solution. Learn more at SoCalGas.com. Search solution.
KHTS, your hometown station.
Hello and welcome back to the Insight Treatment Hour on your hometown station, KHTS 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Dr. Trevor Small, the Director of Clinical Development with Ellen Bradley-Windell and Stephanie Wedgeby from the Valencia Relationship Institute. And Stephanie and Ellen and I were just talking during the break, and I'm really excited to hear about this idea of living in the now. And maybe just tell us a little bit about it, Stephanie.
Yeah, so I know with COVID, there's been, so much kind of messaging about what we can't do, which, can be, and for teens or youth, that can be even really a harder message than even for adults. So working with the families, I really help them to think of, they have to do something that gives them pleasure, that increases positive emotions, and do it, every day, within reason and within, what's possible, So Ellen had brought up earlier about, having a transition time. Can they do something, make a really delicious meal? Can they journal? Can they, listen to music? Can they do something, creative? I had one family that really took the time to make a garden as a family. But it has to be something that increases, positive emotions. Anything, pleasure now. So I was really talking, do something that really feels good, and that's a healthy coping ability. And I know you were brought up about, the holidays, talking to, we are in this pandemic, and hopefully there is an end soon in sight, but, it doesn't stop you kind of preparing for, what do they want the next, couple months to look like? What do they want the new year to be for them, and I know some of the teens, they have actually some really, I'm working with a teen that talked about, I would really love one day just to ride the train. And I was like, wow, that's so great. What would that look like to ride the train and something like that, So those things really help kind of ground, the present time. It helps reduce feelings of stress, reduce feelings of worry, of uncertainty, and give control, in a healthy way. We're all kind of trying to seek that in our own lives, and teens especially really struggle with that. So anything that's really going to increase positive emotions really helps to ground to here and now and living in the present.
Fantastic. I love it. I know that a phrase that's being used quite a bit right now is being able to view what's happening now as a chapter in one's life versus the entire book. And I think that especially for teenagers, it's so important to keep in mind that what's going on now, they have no real frame of reference to say that, well, this will be over in 6 months or a year, or we'll be back watching, the Kings playing hockey at Staples Center very soon. And Ellen and Stephanie, you don't know, but I do try to sneak in at least one hockey reference during each of these radio shows. A little bit of a hockey fanatic, but we can probably process that later. But I do want to take a minute to thank both of you today for spending the afternoon with our listeners and talking about the fantastic work that you're doing at the Valencia Relationship Institute. And I want to make sure that people do know that you have two locations. You have one in Valencia and one in Toluca Lake. And from what I understand, that you're able to see people 7 days a week through telehealth.
Yes.
Right? Which is absolutely
telehealth and in office, yes. Mm-hmm.
And in office. So this is absolutely fantastic. So I would encourage people, if you have a moment, to please take a look at Valencia Relationship Institute's website. As I mentioned, they have a fantastic blog with lots of great ideas about how to manage the holidays, how to manage a lot of the feelings that are happening during this pandemic, and also how to be open and honest and vulnerable with one another during this time to help families become closer and more connected. And so, again, thank you so much, everyone, for spending the afternoon with us. This is, of course, KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM, 1220 AM, and this was the Insight Treatment Hour. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.